Welcome to Shelf Life, the monthly series where I look at games I covered about 6 months ago and let you know whether they're still in my collection. And this month we are looking back at January of this year, a bunch of crowdfunding games, a bunch of retail releases. Let's see which of them had shelf life. So going through the crowdfunding games first, we start with the Last Lighthouse. This is a button-shy one that I covered, solo-only, kind of like tower defense-ish game. I thought the core mechanisms here were good, but I found the balance pretty weird. I mentioned this to the publisher, and they actually went back to the designer, and he rebalanced some things, but it still wasn't quite right. I don't know. It just seems a little bit too easy, but I think there might be a good game in there. I'm not sure what the final version looked like and whether they kind of fixed everything. But yeah, this one was a cool idea. Not as great in practice as I would have hoped. That's the Last Lighthouse. Next is Hunted Kobayashi Tower 2nd Edition, which actually I'm realizing shouldn't be in the crowdfunding section at all because this delivered. Oh well, too late for that. But yeah, this one, I never liked the Kobayashi one as much as the Mining Colony one out of the two sets that came out first. I still prefer Mining Colony more, even though they did improve a lot of stuff in Kobayashi and it is better. The Hunted system is fine, but yeah, I didn't keep this one. Mining Colony is more my jam, and they're all kind of similar, so I don't think there's much point in having like 3 or 4 different Hunted games. So yeah, that's a cull, even though I have it in the crowdfunding corner for Hunted Kobayashi Tower 2nd Edition. Next is Firefight Tactical. I'm still super excited for this one. Oh my gosh. If you didn't see my original preview, this has a lot of the DNA of Combat Commander, one of my favorite war games of all time, but with a really excellent solo mode inherently built in there. And just even getting away from Combat Commander, some really cool stuff about dice usage and how cover and movement and things work. I'm so excited for this game. So not sure where GMT is in the process. It seemed like it was kind of close to done, but I don't know. But anyway, that is Firefight Tactical. That'll definitely be one I want to play when it's ready. Okay, next is Fate Defender of Grimheim. This is a adventure cooperative game where you're trying to fight off monsters, kind of like tower defense-ish with some leveling up and stuff. And it's pretty good. Not something that super excited me. The art's a little bit goofy. The gameplay is pretty solid though. But yeah, it's a bit more of a pandemic-ish adventure game. Or like I said, tower defense. So maybe not my biggest jam, and it's fine. It's definitely a solid game. Not one that I'm excited to play necessarily, but I think a lot of people will like it. That's Fate Defenders of Grimheim. Next is Dante Inferno. This is a big boss battling game with a narrative adventure portion. And there are just so many of those games in those spaces now. This one seemed good. I liked some of the things going on in the confrontation phase. The adventure phase seemed a little meh right now. The core way you kind of resolve your checks with these tarot cards is okay, and it was supposed to change in each level of hell you explore, but I only got to play the first one, so I can't say whether the other ones will be really exciting. I feel like this one's still pretty in development though, so it might be very different when the final game comes out. And then yeah, the core boss battling was pretty good. Not top tier like Oathsworn or something like that for me, but pretty fun. So wait and see. This one I feel like is a little early to call, but I wasn't blown away. I thought it was pretty decent. That's Dante Inferno. And then last one in the crowdfunding is Aeon's End Descent. This is sort of not a reboot, it's a prequel in terms of narrative. They had some new mechanics in here, like these allies and sort of mini enemies that were pretty fun. I generally liked the new mechanics that I played. It's still Aeon's End. I do think I've mostly gotten on the Astronauts train at this point. But yeah, this was good stuff. I will say, though, I remember I liked the allies and mini enemies, but they also kind of made the turns take longer and made the downtime worse. So it's a mixed bag. But I think Aeon's End fans will certainly love this one, too. So yeah, that's Aeon's End Descent. Pretty solid. But hey, let's actually get to some released games. So first up, speaking of GMT and war games, is The British Way. This is a 2-player only entry in the Coin Counterinsurgency series. It does have a bot, and they're okay. The big thing is, if I'm going to put in the time for a coin game, even though this is a quicker, simpler one, I actually kind of like having to deal with 4 asymmetric factions, and only having 2 here felt a little bit less. If I'm going to already learn the bots and run all the stuff, let's just do the full thing. So I am ultra excited. I'm a P500 backer for, Red Dust Rebellion, the sci-fi coin game coming up that does have 4 factions. This one was pretty good, but not great. That's the British British way. Next is Raising Robots. This is kind of a Wyrmspan-ish engine builder. I had a lot of fun with this one. My kids did too. The solo mode is fine. It works pretty well. I do think this is kind of a crowded space, though, with Wingspan and Wyrmspan and all those kind of things. So it was not a keeper for my family, but no real complaints about this one. I think it's solidly designed. I think there's some interesting choices there. And yeah, I think you can try lots of different engines with it. So that's Raising Robots. Pretty solid game. Moving right along, we have G.I. Joe Mission Critical. This is the rethemed game from the Renegade Power Rangers system, where you are doing like card-based combat. And a lot of the stuff I would say about this one also applies to Power Rangers. I think it's way overproduced and way overpriced. You get all these miniatures that, at least for me, add almost nothing to the game and just make it take up more space. The boxes are huge with not much in them. But putting that aside, I do love the dice-based combat. I do love the different characters. The G.I. Joe adds like vehicles and stuff and has some like balance fixes that I did appreciate. It does still have dice-based combat. It's going to piss some people off. Yeah, because the game is so huge, I didn't end up keeping it. But I do appreciate it a lot. You know, if they, I wish they would take like the G.I. Joe deck builder game from Renegade, which I didn't enjoy at all. I wish they had made that this game and it was just card based, because again, you don't need the miniatures for really anything, and they could have sold it for like $30, $40 in a small card box, and it would be awesome and I would love it. So that's G.I. Joe Mission Critical, another call, so many. And hey, I mentioned Wyrmspan when I talked about Raising Robots, and here's Wyrmspan, the dragon version. And I will say, for my taste, I like this better than Wyrmspan. And it's not like that much more complicated. My 11-year-old, who's played Wyrmspan a bit as well, was able to play Wyrmspan pretty easily. If you like birds, of course, it's not going to do anything for you. It's just all dragons all the time. But yeah, I like this one a lot. It's not a keeper. Again, this is not the kind of game I play with my family. And the solo mode was fine, but is not like exciting enough compared to some of the co-op games I play. So solid game. Again, I like it better than Wyrmspan, but not a keeper. So one more call. So come on, Mike, where's your positivity? Where are the keepers? Well, here's one. This is Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard, the two-player cooperative trick taker. I've said I love this game. My favorite two-player trick, or at least cooperative trick taker out there. I like it better than the Crew at two-player. I like it better than Sail, and those are solid games in their own right. I haven't played every two-player cooperative trick taker, but of those, this is the best. I think this game is awesome. So if you like trick takers, definitely do yourself a favor. I think it's finally got U.S. distribution. I know it took a while, but do yourself a favor and check out Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard. Fabulous, fabulous game. That's a keeper. Yay. And hey, can we go 2 for 2 at the end? No. Skyrockets, pretty fun game. This is very similar to Kites from the same company, and they just added some extra stuff. I do think this is better than Kites. If I'm going to play one of these cooperative, real-time, quick-playing games, I would go for this one over Kites. I think it's fun. Honestly, my family isn't going for real-time games much anymore. Galaxy Trucker is probably the closest I can get. But yeah, these like really frenetic kind of cooperative real-time games just aren't hitting. Like any of them have worked that well recently. So it's not a complaint against the game. I had fun with this one. But yeah, you can see the crazy Mike solo variant, which is not an official way. This is not a solo game. You're supposed to play this cooperatively. So ignore what you're seeing on screen. But that is Skyrockets. Fine game, just not my family's cup of tea at this point. So a bit of a rough month. I'm only excited about one of the crowdfunding pre-order games, and only one of the retail releases was a keeper. But let's see which of you were able to figure that out and win the contest. So first in group 1, we have none of them being the most popular choice and also the correct one. Almost 60% of you guessed that. The most popular one that was incorrect was G.I. Joe Mission Critical. 22% thought I would keep that one. Raising Robots was next with 16. And the lowest game on the list was The British Way. Only 7% of voters thought I would keep it. As for group 2, the correct answer, Jekyll and Hyde, was again the biggest vote getter, 53%. Wyrmspan was the biggest spoiler with 29. None of them was right there with 28. And then Skyrockets only got 9%. And I guess even with all the options, that was a bit too predictable this month because a ton of you got this right, like 30-something. The names in yellow are Patreon supporters, lots of them. And the names in red, Chris, Alan, and Edgar at the top, they chose not to be in the contest. So I'm going to roll a D10 and a D4 and see who our winner is. All right, so first the D10, we have a 4, and then the D4, we have another 4, which means Danny is our winner for this month. Danny, I'll be reaching out and seeing which game you want from my collection. Everybody else, great job guessing correctly, and check the link in the video description to jump in next month for more Shelf Life.